Welcome to Bass and Brews Podcast, your weekly distraction from quality or high quality podcasts. It doesn't matter. We're your weekly distraction from any quality podcast content. And tonight, I'm doing the intro. If you can hear, I hope you can hear, not turn the volume up. Alex isn't here, so that means one of two things. One, Drunkwood is here, and we're going to have the Drunkwood Russian roulette of guests, but that's not what's happening tonight. The second thing is that means we're probably got a really, really good, probably famous angler on because Alex isn't here and he misses all of those episodes. And we do tonight. We got a fan favorite returner, Tyler Ward. And then, what's up, Tyler? How you doing tonight?
We're doing good, brother.
I hear that. You always doing good, even when you're not.
Always.
And then we got Mr. Matt Arey.
What's up, fellas?
Matt, how you doing, man?
Better not deserve, I'll be honest with you.
I hear that. That's great. Look, here's the thing with Alex. He never shows up for these types of podcasts. Now, he's supposed to be here late. We'll see if that happens.
I got a friend just like that.
Who's also supposed to be here tonight, who might show up late. And who is that friend, Matt? Tell us who's the friend that might show up late tonight.
Well, you want me to give you his real name or what I call him?
Both.
No. Well, no, his nickname's Smoke, which everybody in the industry knows him as Smoke. But our little buddy, Mr. Brian Thrift, he's got a date, so who knows if he's going to actually pop in or not.
Hey, you know what? You get a surprise date with your wife at the age that we're at. I think Tyler's a little bit younger than us, but you get a date night with your wife. You take that opportunity to go on that date night because they're few and far in between, especially if you got children.
Exactly. Did you just say triplets?
Children. Children.
Thought you was telling me you had triplets. I was about to say, bless this man. Lord have mercy.
Hell, I tell you what, if I had triplets, I have two. And after the second one, we were in the hospital. And after our second one was born and everything was good, we're in the room. I looked my wife dead in her beautiful blue eyes. And I said, I'm done. I can't do anymore.
Yep. I've got two girls and wouldn't have it any other way, but two's a good number.
That's right. Two's a plenty.
Taking notes.
Yeah, you better, Tyler.
Yeah. Look. You want your fishing to be cut down by 3/4 of what you do now? Have two at one time. You'd sell your boat.
The bad thing is, here's the bad thing. So Heather's family has been known for that.
Oh my God!
And her sister was supposed to be that generation to have it, and it skipped her. So I'm a little concerned.
No, you're good, man. You're good.
The famous last words.
I wouldn't worry about it. I'm not worried about it. You shouldn't be worried about it.
I'm not sure how that works, but there we are. Yeah. There we are. Well, look, we're gonna have a good time tonight. This Bass and Brews. We're gonna talk some shit. We're gonna talk some fishing. We're gonna have a good time, and we're gonna get into the story of Matt Arey, which I'm excited about. But let me preface this. Oh. Sorry, Alex will kill me if I don't do this. Hey, look, if you want to support the channel and get some inside content on a live subscription-only basis, go to Patreon, something or another, Bass and Brews, and go sign up. It's on like $3-5 a month. And our next, let me see, when this comes out, you'll have already missed the February episode, but the first Friday of every month, we have our little Patreon live event. It's 45 minutes, 50 minutes. Alex and I interacting with the guests, taking questions. No guest. It's a good time. It's very different from this. It's very different. But anyway, I'm going to preface this with Tyler was on this podcast as a guest himself. We recorded an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 40 minutes. I did not know, and he did not mention that he's the producer of Let's Talk Fish.
I ain't the producer.
Wait, hold on a second.
I mashed the buttons to make sure it goes, and they fuss at me when something don't go.
You mean anytime there's a problem, Tyler is the reason. He is the producer. Yeah, he's learning. He's in training. He's still in diapers, but we're working on it.
That sounds like a producer to me. If the guy that mashes the buttons to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it's so bad that he had to screenshot the soundboard to make sure he didn't screw it up the following week. I'm dead serious. Did you not? Did you not?
I took a picture of it to make sure everything's right when I walk in, because people like to mess with stuff. In our last episode, when I came in, somebody had been over here and turned all the dials.
The bad thing is Brian and I never set foot in there except on Tuesday nights.
That's somebody's kids coming in there and playing on the podcast equipment as well.
Somebody's something.
Yep. Somebody leaving the door unlocked.
Look, we're going to call him Tyler the producer instead of Tyler the creator, because that name's already taken by a famous person.
Yeah.
So we got Tyler the producer, but he did not mention it the whole time. I didn't know. I had been listening to the podcast, but I just didn't put it together. And I didn't know that we had, some fishing royalty in the house, and here we are. I don't understand, Tyler. Why wouldn't you say, "Hey, man, I'm part of a really big fishing podcast"? I've been wanting to ask you that on air.
Just stay behind the scenes and let them do the show, man.
Mm-hmm.
Just because
probably one of the most y'all's. Probably one of the most unprofessionally scheduled, or there's no rehearsal. It's all live. We do ours live because we started off doing it live several years back, and the reason we did is there wasn't a lot of fishing podcasts when we started ours. I think Luke Duncan's had his, but there was nobody that was doing a lot of live at all in the fishing industry where we could engage with fans and answer questions and get more, kind of more in on the educational side of it. And that's what we started doing. And then it kind of snowballed into goofing off and having a little more fun with it. But I mean, you say producer. Now we do a show and it drops into our YouTube channel in our live column. Mm-hmm. You can't even find a dang thing unless you click on the live, which, it's not the most user-friendly deal. We've never put a thumbnail on a video that I'm aware of. We've never put an intro song. We've never had an intro to any of our podcasts that I'm aware of. Well, back in the day.
We used to have intros.
Yeah, well, you had nothing to do with that. And you're going to regret bringing me on this show, Tyler. I'm going to promise you that here in about 30 minutes.
I don't care. There ain't nothing I ain't already said, probably.
Anyway, a long story short, I got a good close friend of mine, and he has some really, really good experience producing and editing one of the largest fishing YouTube channels there are, probably the biggest as far as a professional angler is concerned. It's not Milliken, by the way. Yeah, it's Scott Martin. So my little buddy McCoy now lives and resides in North Carolina, about 30 minutes from here. He is going to be taking our episodes and cleaning them up. Basically, not editing. No editing. We're like y'all. We like everything's raw, unedited. But we're gonna cut out the dead space at the beginning. We're gonna drop an intro video in there. We're gonna put thumbnails on there, so maybe somebody actually click on a video every once in a while. And we're gonna reload them in the video column, which is where I'm an idiot, and things have to be very user friendly for me to get on YouTube and find a video. But the first thing when I go to a YouTube, is it just me, or when you go to somebody's YouTube page, does everybody click on videos instantly?
Yes.
Okay, so that's just a natural thing, right? So it's kind of that's kind of where I feel like our videos probably should be, but none of them are there. I mean, there's things from 3 years ago there, but none of our live videos, and then the podcast downloads, they usually take a month if we're lucky to actually make it to the platforms. So we're going to get that cleaned up, and then McCoy is going to train Tyler, hopefully, to take that job over, and then you can start calling him a producer at that point.
Good luck. Let's go fish when Tyler's doing everything.
Yeah,
but he does have a good trainer. Let's.
Oh, he's got a great trainer.
Yeah.
And it's not me.
What's funny though is that dead space at the beginning of y'all's lives, where you're pretty much, you and Brian are sitting there kind of waiting on Tyler to get the shit together, and he's got his microphone on, and y'all going back and forth. Some of that's social media gold.
Well, see, and that's the other thing. We probably need to be clipping that and creating some shorts out of it, right? Like we've never done anything like that either. Like our YouTube channel is probably one of the most ridiculously looking channels out there, because there is nothing like, if And I told McCoy, I said, man, I don't think it would take much work to spruce this up and actually get some followers. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know. I don't know what our views are. I don't know what's our subscribers, Tyler?
You're
Like
just under
7,000.
7K.
I don't
Just
know.
under
Okay,
7K
so
on subscribers.
and I told McCoy, I said, I don't know what a podcast legitimately could get to in the fishing industry. I said, but at least we could start cleaning some stuff up and getting some more attention. You know what I mean? Like make it appealing at least, where somebody might actually. And the shorts are that's what I watch. Like I get addicted to YouTube shorts all the time, and we got plenty of. Good Lord, I don't know how many one-liners and things that we have that we could get. You know, we could make a short out of. So especially
Have
with
to go
drift.
file back through the episodes and find a
Yeah.
bunch of one-liners.
Oh, there's
Like
plenty of them.
y'all had one recent ones. Tyler gave y'all the finger.
Yeah,
Not
he
that
does that.
finger. Yeah.
He does
Tyler
that about
gave you
every
the
episode. Yeah, yeah.
That's
Oh
why I
yeah.
stay
No,
behind the camera.
yeah, he does both. He does both. Yeah.
Well, hey, I'm glad y'all at least let him have a microphone and let him, turn it on and tune in and have some dialogue, because sometimes you and Brian won't, y'all will have something come up and y'all have no idea. And he's back there on his computer figuring out what's going on and gets to chime
Yeah.
in.
He is good for some statistics every once in a while. Kind of like the Ronnie with Bass and the screen of knowledge, like you could be the screen of Tyler or whatever,
Screen of
you
Tyler.
know. Yeah,
I'll
we could
take it.
yeah.
Tyler, the knowledge screen.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
We'll
Look,
come up with something.
we're gonna come back to the podcast and the YouTube, the podcast side of it. We'll call that. But Matt, we have a question that we have new guests on here, and we always ask them to start it off. We don't have a bio that we read out to say who you are, to introduce you to our people. We don't ask you to tell you who you are or anything like that. Our question to our guest is, what's the journey that has brought you to where you are today?
Man, this is my. When you have to sit back and calculate how many seasons you fished professionally. I mean, when I say professionally, I mean full time. That's always been my definition of a professional angler. It's not a guy that has a full time job over here and then does this on the side,
So it
or
ain't a
vice
guy
versa.
it's not the guy cutting grass, on the weekends he's not fishing. He's fishing every weekend.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go as as far as to say that, because a lot of these guys are making some extra cash here and there. But I'm talking about a guy that's got a 9 to 5 job, 5 days a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
That's a little sorry to interrupt. I'm not sorry. That's what I do. I'm an interrupter. But we had Alex Rudd on before, and we had some controversy arise from that kind of analogy, I guess we'll call it. So, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, so I think this is going to be I have to recalculate, but I think it's going to be my 18th season full time. So, kind of without being too cliche, it's kind of like all the other guys out here. We grew up in the outdoors, fishing and hunting, kind of living and breathing, outdoor sports in general. I was always super competitive too. Played soccer year round, played baseball, and then once I got up into high school, I started fishing a little bit more and more. And man, I grew up. I was really fortunate to grow up on a local lake here. Tyler's very familiar with it, called Moss Lake, and it's a very small lake. It's owned by the city of Kings Mountain.
Okay, Kings Mountain.
Ooh, yeah, Kings Mountain. It's just 15 miles from the house here, and I grew up on the lake. I got an older brother, younger brother, mom and dad, but nobody in my family really fished, which is the really weird part about this, because most of the guys that my dad used to take me fishing all the time, or my mom used to take me fishing, or my brothers, we fish tournaments together, whatever it is. Just something I got addicted to at a very young age, and got very addicted to it when I found out it was, you could do it competitively, because that's just that was my personality. I was just a competitor at everything I did. Like, it didn't matter if it was a board game in the house against my brothers, or out in the yard, in a 3-legged race, or whatever it was. I just I got into fishing tournaments back probably in high school a little bit with the bass clubs. We didn't have high school and college fishing like they do now. But I got to fishing in high school with some of the local bass clubs, and most of the guys in the club were older guys, in anywhere from 40 to 70 years old. I fished kind of as a non-boater with those guys. A few of them took me under their wing, and kind of helped mentor me as far as what tournament fishing was kind of like, and kind of what the kind of the perception of it, because you get this picture drawn up in your mind when you see it on TV. I used to watch Bassmasters on TNN.
Yep.
So you're the same age as me. Tyler may not remember those days, but
He wasn't
TNN.
born yet.
Yeah, he probably wasn't born yet. But TNN, which was the network that hosted Bassmasters when I was a kid, it would come on Saturday mornings, and I'd get up and watch it on Saturday mornings. And that was from the time I was like 7 or 8 years old. I don't know. I was just so addicted to it at a young age. And then fast forward to the bass clubs. I went to school at NC State University to get my degree in agricultural. Yeah, I saw the blue back there on the wall, and if you wouldn't mind taking a red Sharpie and just coloring over that, we could make this a lot easier on
Matt,
both of
this
them.
is my podcast. I will kick you off of this some bitch right now.
Yeah, hold on a second.
We were in college at the same time then, probably.
Hang on. I got a flag over there somewhere. Let me see if I can point to. Oh yeah, there it is, right above the TV. See it? It's red.
No, I can't see. I'm colorblind. It's red.
Hold
I'm
on.
red and
There.
orange colorblind.
Did that work? I took my fingers and zoomed. I took my fingers and zoomed in, but I don't know if that actually worked.
So you were at NC State at the same time I was at Carolina. Then you were a freshman in what, 2000?
I graduated. Yeah, I graduated in December of 2003. So,
okay.
Sorry, trying to get my camera back straight here. And yeah, so I graduated high school in '99. So yeah, I guess we were there at the same time.
Yeah, I was. A year
I was
behind you in high school.
actually went to Chapel Hill. I went to Chapel Hill for one of their Halloween parties, and I realized how big of a mistake that was. The ECU had a way better Halloween party than y'all did. So that was the first and the last time I went to the Chapel Hill Halloween party. I went to ECU for the rest of them.
Hey, it's funny. I'd never stepped foot in Raleigh until like 10 years after I actually graduated Carolina. But we had, Chapel Hill had a big Halloween shindig on Franklin Street. And I dressed up as a NC State girls college student one, and I had a extra small, so it ended up being like a tube top NC State shirt. And I had some stuff written on it. I had a cowboy hat on. I had my 4'11" girlfriend, now wife, shorts on, and a big old dip of Copenhagen in, and I was an NC State hoe for Halloween.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's fairly accurate. It's fairly accurate.
Well,
yeah,
I'll tell you, I had a buddy of mine I met, played football at NC State. I played football at Carolina. He played football at NC State, and he would have been 98 or 99. I think it was 98 was his freshman year, but he's from the Augusta, Georgia area. And him and I met and became good friends.
Very cool.
Through the football.
So you got to play against Rivers while you were there.
Yeah. We were same class. So
yeah,
we lost my freshman year. We lost to them at Carolina. Beat them the second year at NC State, and then I think my last 2 years, unfortunately, we lost NC State.
Well,
don't let him lie though. Don't let him. He lost standing on the sideline as the backup punter.
Hey, where'd you play football?
If he played, I'm about to say if he played, Tyler. I don't know what you're getting at here, but I don't think you got a lot of ground to stand on over there, brother.
Look, I'm gonna tackle Tyler the first time we meet and ask him what a Carolina football player second string punter tackles like.
Yeah.
All right, good. Sorry. Anyway, making connections. You went to NC State. That's cool. I've got some great NC State friends. But when it comes to sports, we got to be mean to each other.
Of course, yeah. It's like
work.
Unwritten rule, right? It's unwritten rule. But
did they have a bass team when you were there?
That's what I was getting ready to say. So I graduated in December of 2003, and the first bass team they actually had was in 2004. Oh, wow. And they were, I guess it's my fault for not starting one, right? But it was one of the very first ones in the country to have an actual
bass club,
bass fishing team, bass fishing club.
They were badasses back then. They stepped on the scene and were.
They did. So yeah, they won a couple of the early. I don't know if it was Boat US back in the day, the national championships, like in the 2007 to 2010 range, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's kind of bittersweet that I missed out on the whole collegiate fishing deal. Of course, now we got kids that we're sending on scholarships through the CCBA that Tyler helps with too here in the county, our youth fishing program and team. And man, the opportunities these kids have now is just unreal. But when I finished at NC State, I fished my first BFL actually in 2003, the fall that I graduated. and it was down on Lake Wiley, and it was the first time I had kind of dabbled into a little bit higher level of competition, I guess you could say, and ended up making a top 10 in my first BFL, and that kind of probably gave me a false sense of confidence, but it was good. Any confidence is good confidence in fishing, is the way I look at it. And then from there, I started fishing some more BFLs in '04, but in 2005, it was something that I knew I wanted to pursue. I was working at a boat dealership here in Shelby, and the fellow I worked for owned the dealership called Anchor Marine, and he was that was the only job I could have to where he allowed me to take off for 5 or 6 or 7 days in a row and fish, and then come back and work selling boats Monday through Saturday. So I was in sales.
Hey Matt,
Go
were
ahead.
you fishing as a non-boater or a boater at that time?
So in the BFLs, I was fishing as a boater.
Okay.
I started fishing some Everstarts and Toyota, or they were Everstarts in a Toyota series now, as a boater. But I started in 2005 fishing the FLW Tour as a co-angler. So I
Okay.
chose to do '05 as a co-angler in order to basically just get my feet wet on some of the lakes that I'd never seen in other states, Florida, things like that. Florida's a different animal in itself. Got to go up north and visit Lake Champlain on one of those events and tangle with some smallmouth, which I'd never done before. But 2005, I took off on the road by myself, still working at Anchor Marine, and fished as a co-angler for in the 2005 FLW Tour season. Met a lot of great guys, and came back. Had a decent year. We made the Forest Wood Cup, whatever. But we were doing it as a co-angler. Learned a ton, and I came back to Shelby, and Andy Montgomery, guy you probably heard of, and my little buddy Thrift were fishing local events, having a lot of success locally and regionally. And I said, "Look, guys," I said, I knew they wanted to chase this dream too. I said, "Man, the best thing y'all can do is come with me next year, and let's all three travel together and fish the FLW tours co-anglers." And they're like, "Oh yeah, let's try to figure that out." So we did. All three of us took off in 2006 together as co-anglers on the FLW tour, and great experience. I mean, priceless experience. But funny story, and I've told this story many times. But in 2006, so Andy Montgomery, Brian Thrift, and myself were fishing the FLW tour and traveling together as co-anglers. We all had kind of met some different guys along the way to where we could practice with some of them too.
Oh
Chris
wow, that's
Bumgardner,
big.
yeah, Chris Bumgardner, Todd Alton, a guy named Jeffrey Thomas, a guy named Chris Elliott, several guys that don't fish anymore, from around the Carolinas. Super dudes, taught us a lot, and we were able to jump in the back of their boats and practice also. We were also allowed to take our own boats if we wanted to, which was good because we did that a few times. So we could learn to navigate these lakes on our own too. So we did that, and real quick, we got through the third event of the year. There was only 6 tournaments back then. We were through the third event, halfway through the FLW Tour season, and he Thrift was leading the co-angler of the year points.
Damn.
Andy was in the top 5. I was somewhere in the 20s, and we were rolling into the fourth event, and Brian didn't get in, and Andy and I are wondering why, and he signed up late or forgot to sign up, whatever it was. And so he didn't get in the fourth tournament. So his co-angler of the year chances, excuse me, are out now, right?
Oh,
So Andy and I were signed up. Andy and I go on to fish the rest of the season, the last 3. We both make the Forest Wood Cup. We go to the Forest Wood Cup. I end up winning the Forest Wood Cup as a co-angler. Andy finished second in the Forest Wood Cup as a co-angler, but Andy also won the co-angler of the year title that year, which Thrift probably would have won because he was smashing them everywhere he went. It had he remembered to sign up for the remainder of the year. So, and then jumped to 2007. That's when we all became rookies on the pro side of the FLW tour. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of how we all got jump started in our careers.
All right, I got a couple questions. All right.
Yep.
The first one is I'm going to ask both of them and then let you answer. The first one, the short answer. Who was well, actually, I got 3. One, who was the most favorite guy that you fished with as a co-angler in those FLW tournaments?
One that stood out the most, just a super versatile angler, kind of learned a lot of little tidbits from him that day, a lot of little details, a lot of some different techniques, is Wesley Strader. Wesley Strader is probably one of the most consistent anglers of all time. A guy that doesn't have a lot of major tour wins or anything like that, but he's still fishing, and he's been doing it full time for 20 plus years now, if I'm not mistaken. And just a very, very versatile angler, knows a ton of just about bass behavior in general, and just gets it. He just gets it, man. And he's from that East Tennessee area, always kicking out a lot of hammers over there, and super good dude. I drew him on Lake Champlain. Is where I got to fish with him, and that may be the only time I actually ever fished with Wesley. But immediately, you jump in the boat with him, and it's like you've known him for 10 years. Just a super nice guy, very genuine, very humble, and an unbelievable angler. Unbelievable angler.
Nice. All right. The second question, we're going to back up a little bit. I fish in the after college. Well, I wasn't graduated yet, but I was done with football, taking classes part time. But I fished in Alamance County Bassmasters Club. And you were talking about how you fished in the club, in the local club tournaments over there. You talked about the old guys. And the old guys were probably the funniest people to fish with. We had this one guy that would bring a loaf of bread that had pre-made sandwiches in it, and he would eat the. Did you have any old guys that did something eclectic or kind of weird to be out there fishing?
I mean, there's one guy. He's always sitting. He's fold down seat and smoke a cigar the whole time he's fishing. I mean, I'm talking about not a little black and mild, like a tank of a cigar. Yeah, I mean that son of a gun. He probably smoked one and take him the whole tournament to smoke it. But I mean, it was that big.
It ain't Mayhew, is it?
No, it wasn't Mayhew. Mayhew wasn't a smoker. No, he wasn't a smoker. And this guy
No.
since passed away. But no, I mean there was a lot of really good dudes in the clubs that I fished in. The clubs were called, one was called the Bass Casters, one was called the Anchor Marine Bassmasters, and most of them were just good old boys, man. Just good old boys. They'd do anything for you. And
Did
but
you ever
yeah,
fish in the club with Roger Beaver?
yep, we were in the Bass Casters together.
He was
Yeah,
in
fished
the club I first started in when I started fishing. He was still in that club. I fished against him a lot for about
Yeah,
3 years.
Roger's old jig slinging hammer,
Hmm.
and of course Tom was too. But a lot of guys that I mean I still like Randy Scarborough and Bruce Camp. I mean, there's a lot of guys that I
Yep.
still stay in touch with to this day. A lot of them still live around here, where I reside here in Shelby. But yeah, I mean great dudes, and some of those relationships lasting forever, which is that's priceless. Is the relationships you get to make along the way in this
Yeah.
sport.
And I'm busting in with a question. Hold up, Paul.
Go ahead. Yeah. Hey,
Because this is the
my
first.
podcast. Don't talk.
No. Alex ain't here, so we got to do this back
Yeah,
and forth.
yeah.
We got to fill it in. Because this is my first time hearing the story about Matt and Brian and Andy. And my question for you is, you said sometimes y'all would take a boat as your co-anglers. You were allowed to take boats. Did y'all ever take one boat and all three of y'all fish out of it? Because I'm sitting here imagining you and
No,
Thrift and Andy in one
no.
boat together.
And that wouldn't work. You know better than that. Like there's no way that all three of us could get in a boat
No,
and it
that'd have
work,
been
especially at this
entertaining.
point. Yeah, I mean I've been in the boat with both of them individually. Brian obviously a lot more. Only
Yeah.
Andy a handful of times, but I've been in the boat multiple times. I mean, well, probably hundreds of times with Thrift, and we get along great. And he always wants to take my boat because he don't like to get his dirty. And if it's in the shop, heaven forbid he's
Facts.
just washed. Heaven forbid he's just washed the thing, cause it ain't coming out of the shop till his next tournament. And he's usually good. He'll sit in the back of the boat and drink his sun drops and smoke his Marlboro Lights and catch two or three big ones and I'm good with that. Like, I mean, he does it. He does. The guy could catch him in a mud puddle,
Yeah.
and he
I think I can
not.
count on one hand out of all the years I fished against y'all two together on Thursday nighters that I actually seen his boat out there.
I believe it. I could count on one hand how many times he took it when we fished together.
So
So
what it sounds like you're saying, from the FOW as co-anglers to up to now, that Brian Thrift is a back of the boat savant.
oh yeah, dude, that guy
I
won.
mean, you've just spent the last few minutes talking about how he was leading the co-angler division
Oh yeah,
and wrecking them, and you don't hear that anymore. I mean, what made
no.
him so good at fishing out the back of the boat?
Well, he was always very extremely. He was a step ahead of everybody as far as the next best thing in the lure
Mm.
industry. And back then, that made a big
Oh, yeah.
difference. Now it doesn't matter anymore. There's no secrets. You can't hide anything. So, He was one of the first of 3 or 4 people to ever have a chatterbait. Ron Davis that started that company with Rad Lures, which is right here in South Carolina, put him in the hands of Brian Thrift and Andy Montgomery very, very, very early on before anybody else in the country had them. I don't care what anybody tells you; they're lying if they said they had them before them two boys. And here's how you prove it: he won 2 tournaments out of the back of a boat in Everstarts. Which, by the way, another funny story. He won 2 tournaments as a co-angler in the back of a boat, in the back of the boat with a bladed jig, Rad Lures original chatterbait. His pros had no idea what they were. They'd never seen them before. He smoked their butts. And in both those tournaments, here's the funny part: in both those tournaments, they gave away a new boat for the co-angler division in each tournament that he won. But he wasn't eligible because he didn't have the right brand boat. So all he got was $5,000 for each one of those wins. Now, when the chatterbait hit the scene, I want to say this was around 2000. I don't know. In 2004 to 2007, somewhere in there. He was fishing an Everstart on Lake Okeechobee. Okay. Imagine going to Lake Okeechobee back in its heyday when the grass was present. There's hydrilla. It's good. It's alive and well. And being the only person in the entire tournament with a bladed jig, and those fish down there had never seen it before.
Never seen it.
Dude, he burned them down. Well, after that, there was no hiding it. It came out and it absolutely exploded onto the market after that. But yeah, I mean, that, back to what your original question, that had a lot to do with his success. He was always kind of on the cutting edge of everything, including technology too. That doesn't play as much as a co-angler when you're a co-angler, but it does, the lure deal and presentation. His mechanics are they're Andy Montgomery level. His mechanics back then were the same level of any pro at the top level today. He was already able to put a bait, in a lot of places that his pros at the time couldn't do. Now, not necessarily tour level pros. Most of those guys were very well versed in as far as mechanics, but as far as the AA, AAA level stuff, where he dabbled a little bit as a co-angler, he just had a knack for catching them.
Yeah. So you and Thrift came up through the co-angler realm. I started fishing as a co-angler. We got all these folks that are our age, or in our age, 43, 44 years old and older, probably to their early 50s, that came up through the co-angler age. Is that are we going to lose that over the next 10 years, do you think? Because I mean, we've already seen it cut out of the opens and stuff. Like, or is the co-angler side of it going to be something that we don't have 10 years from now, where we're running our podcast and we have professional anglers on? They're like, no, I had a boat when I was 17 years old and I was out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely something that needs to be looked at really closely as we speak. I mean, really, really closely. And what I mean by that is is obviously it's not a secret the way technology's changed the game. And back then, if you were an aspiring pro and you had the opportunity to do that, fish at the top level, which was the FLW Tour or the Bassmaster, whatever it was called then, the top 100, or it wasn't the Elite Series quite yet, I don't think. But
2006 was the first Elite Series. It was, I think, top
okay, so it was right on the verge of the beginning of the Elite Series. But you still had an option to fish those as a co-angler back then too. So, if you were an aspiring pro, that was the best opportunity to get out and learn and kind of do a hands-on type deal. And I don't, with the information availability now and technology where it's at, I mean, man, I'm not going to say I could learn more than being in the boat with those guys, but I could pick up a lot more in detail stuff by just going on YouTube now and watching videos. I mean, depending on if you're that guy that has to learn through experience, or you can gain confidence by watching somebody do it. Because I've always, my dad's actually got a sign in his house in the bathroom that says, I think it's some guys learn by reading, some guys learn by watching, and some learn by having to piss on the electric fence. so that's a great analogy for how all of us can learn. Because if you don't have the you can watch somebody do it all day, but and some guys, until you actually do it yourself, you're never going to have the confidence to make it happen. But some guys can read it and trust their gut and go with it from there.
Yeah, and so I kayak fish. I'm over here in the Raleigh area, Some Falls, Jordan, Harris.
You're
And
spoiled.
do what?
I said you're spoiled. You got the good stuff over there.
I don't know if they're spoiled. Like when they're on, they're good. But Sharon Harris, like you got to know that lake. And it's not what it was in 2014, 2015 when because the grass is going and stuff. But anyway,
Yeah.
I will say yes, I'm spoiled that I can go to those 3 lakes. I'm 20 minutes from almost every ramp at Jordan. I'm 15 minutes, 20 minutes from Sharon Harris, and I'm 30 to 45 minutes from most ramps at Falls. So yeah, I do. Yeah, there's smaller lakes. That's why the elites can't come here. You can't put 100 something
Yeah.
anglers on any of those lakes. It'd be a shit show.
Yeah.
I say that I would love to see it because you put those go to Falls or Jordan. I can't imagine what some of the bags would be because people would have to be forced to fish certain small areas, and some of those small areas are going to have 30, 35-pound bags on them. Especially this time of year right now, I guarantee you there's people out there catching 35, 40-pound bags on
Oh,
Jordan
sure.
right now.
Yeah,
But
and that's the thing. We don't have that quality of fish here in the western side of the
Nah.
state. We just,
yeah.
you're the I guess it's Tar River, News River, Tar River mainly that feeds Falls and all, right?
No, Falls is going to be the Eno, and then you're going to have the I'm having a damn brain fart on Jordan. But no, the Tar River's up north. That's
Okay,
that's that's
got you.
what you're going to hit when you get on to the eastern Greenville ECU area, like those places. I think I don't know. My geography's not great, but
Well,
no, the Tar River's not
that
very
system
narrows.
is that system is much
Yeah,
more nutrient rich than anything we have in the
oh
western side of the state,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that has to do with the quality of the fishery, and the size of the fish,
right,
and I got a couple biologist buddies that have told me that echoed that. Basically, it's all about water quality,
yeah,
and Norman, when they did that F1 introduction to 3 different lakes in the state, one being Norman, one being Lake Gaston, I believe, and the other one was it what was one of y'all's lakes?
Jordan,
Was it Jordan?
Jordan.
Thank you. And the reason they did that is because they had 3 different water quality
Mm-hmm.
options. They had Norman at the lowest, Gaston is kind of a mid water quality lake, and then Jordan at the higher water quality option. So to see how they react in different systems.
Well, for Jordan and Falls, they're a lot muddier, dirtier water lakes. They're overall shallow. So we don't, those lakes shouldn't really have a big impact if the Alabama bass gets in there. Where Sharon Harris, completely different lake from both of those. It's super small, but it's got a lot of depth to it, and the water there typically is a lot cleaner than Falls and Jordan. And so we've caught some whatever they are. I don't know because obviously you can't check them, but they're not
Right.
largemouth. And they school up there. You get mega schools like you do on Norman, where you get 100, 200 fish schooling up all at once, and you'll catch a variety of the largemouth black bass species. But yeah, it's interesting, and those lakes
Yeah.
do have a ton of nutrients coming in it, and it's a lot of that has to do with all the runoff from the development in the area where you get a lot of that silt running in, which is good for the nutrient side of it, but it's also bad because it's filling the lakes in, like
Yeah. Yeah.
But on that side, but
Is
back to your
Sharon
point,
Harris a power plant lake?
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
power plant lake,
What's up?
but it's a little bit different because the hot water output is I don't know, a mile. It's a long ways away from the plant. It comes out at I call it the bubble up. And so and it's deep. It's like 35, 38 foot where it comes out at us towards the lower third part of the lake. And so it's not like Norman where you have that hot water discharge where you can go catch 25, 30 fish in a few hours. So it's not quite like that, but that lake used to have a ton of grass on it, and the grass came out to 10 or 12 foot, and it made giants. I mean, we had a guy catch 43, 44 pounds. That was in 2016, I think. Well, the grass is gone now. The fish are still there, but now they're not at that break point where you can go fish that 10 to 12 foot range because you have something you can see and fish them. They're not going to be in the grass. They're just out farther. I mean, the crappy guys on Harris in the wintertime are catching 9 and 10 pounders. You're not seeing them because it's not a tournament. Most of them aren't making YouTube videos, and they're catching them. They're just catching them crappy fishing. But there's big fish and all. I mean, Jordan in the wintertime is where you'll hear people catching 35, 38, maybe close to 40, January to like end of February, and they kind of move out from that wintertime pattern. But yeah, yes, I am spoiled to have those lakes here, but I also fish out of a kayak, so I can't be all over the place like that.
Right.
But to your point, or talking about being a non-boater and learning, especially electronics, I started fishing and I was a beat the bank kind of guy. And then I started meeting people while I was out there who had bass boats. And I was lucky enough that they invited me onto their boats, and they were using pretty much 360 or side scan. And so that's where I learned how to set up and read side scan. And I don't have 360 or forward facing, but like Sharon Harris is where I learned to do all that. And it was because people were taking me on the boat.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the back of the boat and they were teaching me what they knew.
Yeah.
So to go back to being that non-boater side in tournaments where you're getting to fish with guys who are super competitive, and they probably know their electronics real well. Now it's forward facing, whatever it is. Like having that experience on the water, you can watch all the YouTube videos you want, but until you get out there and see it and catch a fish, like to me, that's how you get better fishing. You got to be on the water and see it. I mean, Tyler and I, before we started, were talking about how he's trying to learn forward facing sonar. Like you can watch 100 videos, but until you get out there and start actually doing it, I mean, it's hard to learn that shit until you start catching the fish as you see it.
Well, he should be good now. He got a private lesson the other day.
Yeah, I got a private beat down is what I got.
See, you call it a beat down. I call it, like Matt said, a lesson.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a lesson. It was a big time. Like you throw it one or throw it 4 or 5, and you might get one to look at it, and he comes out here and throws it 5 and hooks 5.
Well, he'd been, the poor man had been in his boat for I don't know how many hours that day, and I don't know if had you caught a bass yet?
Which day was this?
When Ren and I, when my youngest daughter and I
Yeah,
came.
I'd caught some small ones and some big crappie.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I'm a Lawrence guy. I've always run a Ghost, and I've run the active target. I run active target too, and that was actually the first time I've actually ever run a Garmin. I mean, I've been in Scott Martin's boat, my roommate, and he's all Garmin, but so I've seen it in action. But that Garmin, I got in there, and that dang Garmin trolling motor has got a narrower pedal than the Ghost.
Yeah.
And I must have put that sun gun on spotlight 50 times that day.
Oh, at least
before
at
I
least.
had to figure out what angle to put my foot on. Every time if you change brands trolling motor, it's like learning how to walk again. Like you got to figure out how to put your foot and angle it on that pedal because of the shape and the size of the pedal and things like that. But we went out there and we had a quick little tutorial on catching live sonar fish. And back to the co-angler subject, man, that's the biggest thing. I do think I've never thought I mean, I know I fished at the top level as a co-angler back in the day, but I don't think that there's a place for co-anglers at the full-time professional level, at the very, very top end of the circuit for 1,000 reasons that I could list. I mean, I could put the pros and cons. I could give you one con and 1,000 pros, and why not why that doesn't need to happen. But that being said, I feel like co-anglers need to be at every other level there is. And they are a very integral part of not just the industry, but the business of these organizations. And with technology, that's why they got to tread so carefully moving forward, because that is the number one reason co-anglers are not fishing now, is forward-facing sonar technology. And people can argue that all day long, but I know plenty of guys and there's a lot of guys out there that fish as a co-angler that are not aspiring pros. They're just the guys like what you're talking about. They're kayak fishermen, or they just don't own a boat because they don't want the hassle of having a boat payment, but they love to fish. They just want to get in tournaments and compete, but maybe they can't afford a boat, but they can afford to fish as whatever the story is. It still gets more people the opportunity to get out and enjoy our sport and and compete, and make those friendships and stuff along the way, like we were talking about. I mean, I got friends to this day that I met, that were marshals or co-anglers of mine over the past 15, 16, 17 years. And, I wouldn't trade those relationships for the world. But, I do think the co-anglers are very, very important to our industry as a whole. And I don't want to see them completely just go away. And I'm afraid that we're on the verge of that happening if we don't, tread carefully.
Yeah.
Not to make this a forward-facing sonar thing, but I do have a question, because I have some folks I fish with that they'll say they have forward-facing on their boat. They might be good at reading it, but they're like, I don't know how the pros do it. Like, I don't know how they keep that. I don't know how they keep that on a spot. So my question is, do you spot lock and then just move your trolling motor because you kind of know where that brush pile is or that school of fish are? Do you spot lock on that, or are you running that trolling motor like you would 20 years ago, 15 years ago, where you're running the trolling motor and keeping the sonar in its place?
But you're strictly referring to when you're using the live sonar
Right, right.
to fit. Okay, so whether it's target fishing, like fishing structures, objects, brush piles, rock piles, things like that, you can never put your trolling motor on spot lock unless you have that remote deal, where you can spot
Where it
lock your trolling
locks
motor
into the
in
spot.
the turret or whatever it's called. Um, what are those things called, Tyler?
So I think it's called a turret, or some people
Yes,
call it a crappy pole.
yeah, something like that. But anyway,
There's a couple
the
different ones.
It's
yeah
what we
that
use. It's what we use on kayaks, because if you got a
Yeah,
spot
it's the
lock on
little
your kayak,
stick.
and then
yeah yeah.
Yeah.
the sonar, it's on a whole different system, and so the trolling motor is completely separate.
The biggest thing with forward facing sonar and fishing for those fish, especially suspended roamers and things like that, which is what's put it on the map, right? That's what it's made it so famous for, is catching these fish that we never knew were there, that were out in the middle of the lake, 5 foot under the surface, things like that. Is always being able to stay on your bait and on the fish to where you can watch that fish's reaction the entire time. So if you're not able to learn, I mean, it is an art form, 100%. Like, there's an art to it. Like, and it's more of a coordination issue than anything. It's setting your boat up, making that right cast first, understanding the direction the fish is swimming, putting the bait exactly where it needs to be, and then working the bait exactly how it needs to be worked. In order to do that, you have to stay on that the entire time. So you're constantly feathering that trolling motor pedal in order to keep up with your bait, the fish, the way it's swimming, how it's reacting, things like that. So to answer your question, I'm constantly on that trolling motor.
And see, that's another thing about forward facing I have with people. It's like, oh, you can you see the fish, you catch them. I'm like, oh,
No.
it ain't quite
Uh,
that easy. I mean, you're over
Yeah.
well,
there.
and two, another thing people I didn't realize until Matt stepped out on the boat is how fast these guys are moving and doing it. I mean, I'm over here going out, scoping, looking around. I'm probably on like 3 or 4 speed, so I don't get on that fish too fast when I see it. When you step in my boat, you crank that thing up and you're flying.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're obviously looking for bass, and that's
Oh
another
yeah.
thing. The more you use it, the more you're able to identify different species. Now, that's not 100% all the time. We've all learned that by throwing it things that maybe we didn't think was a bass. It ended up being a bass. That's happened to all of us. But for the most part, you can start to identify species a little bit easier. You can start to understand, kind of the direction that these fish are going to be moving, or where they're headed, or understanding that the ones that are more catchable, if they're higher up or lower in the water column, if they're related to big old ball of bait, if they're sitting on a shelf, how they set up and how they move, that kind of helps you decide whether these fish are a little bit easier to catch than others too. But that is the number one tool now in fishing in general, is live sonar. It is it's the most educational tool that's ever hit our industry in the history of bass fishing. And I hear guys all the time like, well, 2D sonar was like that when it came out. Well, mapping was like that when it came out. Well, flashers were like that when they came out. Dude, there ain't nothing in our industry that's ever hit our industry like live sonar. When you can see the fish swimming and watch your bait the entire time, and you can chase that son of a gun from here to the other end of the freaking lake if you want to. It's been done. Our elite guys have done it. They've chased them for 500 yards and caught them.
Damn.
Like the thing about it is, like, whether you like it or you hate it, it's completely restructured the way our sport has to be played now. So it's changed the rules of the game, so to speak. And that's where it's such a challenge for a lot of these veterans, I think. I don't want to get off on a live sonar tangent, y'all, but that's where it's yeah, I'm just did, didn't I? So that's where it's so challenging for a lot of our veterans to.
I got a question though. So I was listening to a podcast the other day, and Rob G was on it, and he was talking about how the way y'all's schedule lays out this year, he thinks it's going to play for a good part of it. There's going to be a lot more tournaments where it can be one where it's not as much of a factor. Do you think that's the case?
Since we have a 5-fish format, that's possible. If you look at the BPT, I with every fish counts. That it's going to be the dominant deal wherever they go, whenever they go. I feel like technology is getting so good now that guys are forgetting. Like, the thing about live sonar is everybody has this impression that it's all about chasing fish in open water and catching them suspended with a jig head minnow, right? Dude, there's guys using live sonar for catching them off the bed, for catching them in 5 foot of water off stumps, for catching them under docks, for catching them off of brush piles, for catching them in rock veins, for catching them on open sand flats. If you don't have that thing on, regardless of what you're doing, you're making a mistake, because it is a fact maker. It is not what we have had to do our entire lives and make educated guesses on where the bass are. Where are the bass? We don't have to ask ourselves that question anymore. We know where they are. We can look at them.
Doing
exactly.
Because to me, forward-facing sonar cuts down on the amount of time that you're wasting on fish that aren't bass or aren't ready to bite.
Yes. I mean, yes, 100%.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, you have to understand when to stay and when to go, and that's always been one of the biggest keys in bass fishing, right? Like
efficiency.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like fishing for one on the bed that you can visually see. Now we can see every single one of them, no matter how deep or shallow they are. So you have to have a 5-minute rule or a 1-minute rule, whatever your rule is. Whatever makes you feel the most confident is you need to stand by that, because you're exactly right, dude. When I first got my active target and I was sitting out there and I'd catch one and I knew there was 10 or 12 more bass hanging around this brush pile or whatever it was. You could waste 30, 45 minutes, and before you know it, you hadn't caught another one. You could have been running around targeting other fish. So that's a big deal.
So I know we're getting up on the time that you got to leave. We do have a shotgun round that we got to run you through that takes about 2 minutes. But I do have one other question about what does it take mentally to be a professional angler? Let's just say we've got some 18-year-old that's going to NC State, to Carolina to fish in the bass gloves. They want to be a pro angler. I feel like, just from playing college football, that like there's a lot of athletic ability, but there's so much mentally, and I feel like in bass fishing there's so much mentally. It's not as much an athletic sport. What does it take mentally to be successful as a pro angler?
Well, I've answered this question a lot of different ways in the past, and there's a lot of things that I think kind of can go into that melting pot of the mental aspect of being a professional angler. But for my personal situation, it's been surrounding myself with the right people. And what I mean by that is not just getting tied in with the right companies as far as sponsors and things like that, but surrounding yourself with individuals that you can trust 110%, that you can lean on for whatever you may or may not need throughout your career, however long it may be. And then, your home life is at the top of that list. I've got a wife and 2 daughters here, and the mental side of it, you have to set yourself up to where I always tell everybody, don't ever risk what you can't afford to lose. So, if y'all can still pay your bills on your wife's paycheck, then you're in a good spot. You're in a good spot. But if you're in a situation to where you building up credit card debt, trying to make it as a professional angler, you need to rethink your life. You need to figure out, first and foremost, how to manage your finances and manage your friendships and manage your relationships, before you make that next step. And I see a lot of people that have struggled over the years in this industry, due to various reasons, but it all kind of comes back to financial stability and keeping anglers mentally strong, from a financial standpoint and a relationship standpoint. I've seen guys have, if they're having trouble at home, they're having trouble on the water 9 times out of 10.
Mm.
And my wife is my backbone. I've said that before. She is she's the MVP of our team, and always has been, and that has a lot to do with my success as a professional angler.
Hey, did you ever fish around, Darren Schwinkbeck?
Did he fish maybe the FLW tour back in the day?
He might have. He was on the
Is he from up
Elites.
north?
Yes, he's from New York,
Okay,
Buffalo
yes.
area.
I know that name.
Yeah,
And
he's the one that wrecked his boat on
The Niagara River, wasn't
Niagara River.
Oh Lord.
And
it?
then
Left the ESPN boat.
And then the second day they gave him the ESPN boat, and he fucked that up. And he left the boat on the Niagara River to come weigh in his fish.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this was the first year of the Elites. Great guy, awesome. He's been on the show a couple times. He's Shipwreck. We call him Shipwreck.
Okay.
But the old school stories of that first year or two of fishing the Elites, and it was I was just curious if you'd fish around Darren, because he's a hoot.
I don't know him personally. I just
Yeah.
the name rings a bell.
Yeah, I guess it does, because
I don't know if I want to fish around this guy, do I?
he broke his boat in half the first day trying to make
Yeah.
runs and waves. So it was funny. Well, look, on Bass and Brews, we have nothing scripted except for these last few questions. We call it the shotgun round. Alex has a little thing that he plays, but I'm not going to play it because we're just going to get into it, because I've already kept you a minute over. So we're going to roll into it. These are yes or no, like simple answer questions.
Okay.
We'll ask them first thing that comes into your head. If we need some explanation, we'll ask about it. And if you don't answer right, we might pick on you. And Tyler has earned a right as the guest co-host tonight to pick on you. All right, are you ready for the shotgun rounds?
Sure.
Okay. He's got to take a sip of his drink to make sure.
Crocs, it's just water.
Flops?
Sorry, I didn't hear that. I was talking.
Yeah, that's okay. Crocs or flops?
Neither.
You got to pick one.
The question. You got to pick one. You might hate both of them, but you.
Well, I don't wear either one of them, so why would I pick one?
Oh, see, I love
okay,
that.
Okay,
flops. Barefoot. I love fishing barefoot.
No, I'm 43. I fish in very comfortable tennis shoes.
Oh my gosh!
I fish in
all right, if you had to pick one, crops.
Flops.
Okay, flops. Every bass boat angler is going to fish in flops. All right.
Yeah.
Pineapple and pizza. Yes or no?
No.
Oh Thank man, you. I'm disappointed in you, Matt.
No,
Tyler,
dude.
Something's wrong with you. You're from the Carolinas, dude. We don't eat pineapple on pizza on purpose.
Yes, pineapple on pizza, man.
No.
I'll eat it because I'm fat, but I ain't ordering it.
Dude, a good Hawaiian barbecue chicken pizza with pineapple on it.
This is why you can't fish with four facing sonar.
Exactly, dude. He's so twisted, man. You got a lot of things you need to just go home and reset.
Yeah, y'all just missing out. But anyway, carry on.
Unbelievable. You gonna spend more on a rod or a reel?
Oh, rod.
There are no good reels. I expected.
Yeah, all the reels out there are the same now for the most part. So, if you're gonna buy, I feel like there's enough reels out there that are in the $200 range to where you should never ever go out and buy a $500 or $600 or $700 reel.
I agree. Thank you. That $100 to $200 range will suffice for 99% anglers.
I mean, and Tyler knows. Like, I started using Bass Pro reels last year, and most of their reels are anywhere. The ones that I use on tour, anywhere from 120 to 220. And they're just as good a reels as anything I've ever used. They're truth be told, a lot of them are probably made in the same places as some $500 reels are made.
Mm-hmm. And you're putting them through the ringer. You're not like the little local tournament guy.
Yeah, we're testing
them through the ringer. All right, in a 3-hour session, you want to catch 5 2-pounders or 1 7-pounder?
In a 3-hour session, 1 7. You said 3 2-pounders, right?
5 2-pounders.
Oh, 5 2-pounders.
You got 3. You're fishing for 3 hours. Can be tournament, non-tournament, doesn't matter. You have 3 hours.
I mean, I fish the elites, dude. It's gonna be a 7-pounder.
There you go.
I mean, if Thrift was on here, that BPT deal got him so brainwashed, he'd probably say 5 2-pounders. No, and it'd probably be just a Thrift would
say he'd say it don't matter. I just like catching.
That's why he'd say 5 2-pounders. Yeah. He likes to get his string stretched a little bit more. But I mean, if it's a 3-hour session and I catch 1 7, I'll take that any day of the week.
Shit, I'll take that in an 8-hour session.
Yeah. Well, I need 4 more in an 8-hour session.
Yeah. Wacky rig or Texas rig?
Wacky rig.
See, I took you for an old school guy that be like, man, if I just had to, I'm going to throw me a Texas rig lizard.
You know that learn through experience we were talking about earlier? Yeah. Yeah, I've learned through experience that I can catch a hell of a lot more fish on a wacky worm.
But I'd never in my life fished a shaky head. And I went out to a tournament, a kayak tournament. Went out there, ended up being a 2-day tournament. I caught some fish on day 4. Big system pulled through. It was nasty, so they ended up making a 2-day session. Second day session, I told there was another guy there. I had to leave early. I was like, man, this is where I'd go. I'm going to run a square bill on this rock. I ended up being able to come back for an hour and a half. I get there, he's there. He's like, I can leave. I was like, nah, man, you got 3 fish. It's fine. I'm throwing a square bill. He's over there wrecking them on a shaky head right beside me. I lost the tournament. He won it. I went home that day and I bought all the shaky head shit I could find. Never fished it before. And the shaky head and the drop shot has won me more money in the last 3 years than anything I got in my whole tackle box.
I remember a couple years ago at our fish off, everybody was scrambling. They're like, man, it sucks. It sucked. And Matt and Brian come in with a freaking bag. And everybody's like, what special bait you throw? How you catch it? A shaky head. Yeah. Waxed all of our butts on a shaky head.
Well, that one was close. You ain't talking about the one where we weighed in 20-something. That was 10 years ago. You're talking about the 1 year before last.
Yeah, 120. I remember the one, 10 years ago or whatever, y'all waxed them too. That was, whew.
That was old school jig fishing. That don't happen
Y'all caught them that day.
Hey, that was the anglers from North Carolina in the 90s. Everybody said they're going to catch them on a jig.
Yep.
If anybody's going to win a tournament, they're biting a jig. It's going to be a North Carolina boy.
There ain't no doubt. There's no doubt, man. I tell you that Andy and Brian won more money on a jig around here. Louis Hall and some of that crew that kind of brought them boys up. Chuck Montgomery, Andy's daddy. Gosh, that's all they did. They go to every tournament, just throw a jig all day. It's just, and they'd win. They'd win tournaments too. Tom Mayhew back in the day used to just kill everybody in the club, and Roger Beaver both. She's talking about earlier. Yep. And that's all they ever did was throw a big old living rubber jig or, old salty chunk.
That's all he threw when I was in the club with him. Same thing. Throw that jig up on the rocks, and he'd just sit back and creep it.
Yep.
You probably still do some damage nowadays with it too.
No, they don't bite a jig anymore.
Oh,
It's all about the minnow, man. If you ain't throwing a jig at minnow, you ain't gonna get a bite. That's what they say anyway.
Well, you got to have forward-facing sonar to do that, apparently.
Yeah.
My little side scan ain't helping me with none of that.
Yeah.
I can't chase it. Hey, Matt, you're on the way to the ramp. Bassmaster Classic. Last day, you got a chance to win. Slow jams or hype music?
Do I have to answer one of those? You want me to tell you the truth?
No, you got to answer it. But look, there's a reason Tyler is a fan favorite because his answer lives in infamy on this podcast for that. But slow jams or hype music?
No, it's more hype music. Yeah.
What is that for you? What's hype music?
Man, I listen to a lot of old country rock and think I'm not like I'm not the guy blasting the Fetty Wap and all that mess. Like that ain't me. Like it might be I don't know. It might be Lanco, a song called "Rivals," my walkout song, and I've actually played it multiple times going to the ramp just because it's a cool song. Lyrics are awesome, and I like to blast some of the faster paced Chris Stapleton stuff and. I'm a old Skinner fan. Of course, when I in high school, man, I was listening to all the '90s rock. Like yeah, man, I could bring out some. I mean, Goo Goo Dolls and Third Eye Blind and dang Eve Six and Trippin' Daisy and just a lot of them were one hit wonders. Everclear, a bunch of Matchbox 20, all that
There you
stuff.
go.
But for the most part, it's more country rock. Yeah, I'm blasting some good old country rock.
I want you to guess what Tyler said listen at this, hype music, what his hype music was when he answered this question.
Village People, YMCA. What's that song? I Touch Myself. Who sings that from the A? You know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah, I touch myself.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah,
you to
that's
love
come on
me.
now.
Look,
That's
if he
it.
would have said
That's it.
that would have
That's
been
Tyler.
fine.
Yeah.
Tyler's
Nah.
definition of hype music was Brooks and Dunn.
I said upbeat country music.
I wasn't far off
Like
that, but
some
Brooks
Brooks
and
and
Dunn is
Dunn.
Brooks and Dunn is more like put you to sleep country.
It depends on which words you listening to.
Look,
Brooks and
nobody.
Dunn,
All
that's
Brooks and
funny.
Dunn ain't slow.
It ain't hype
Oh, you're
music
right.
though. It ain't
Yeah.
gonna pump you up to go out there and be
Yeah.
like beating the steering wheel and
Yeah.
backing your boat up and
Hey,
hitting the brakes and sliding it out.
I'm on the Zach Top right now.
We need to get some like Disturbed or something in your life.
Yes, some
Well,
Disturbed would be great.
I'll
for him.
throw on some AC/DC or whatnot
But
when I
you
really
didn't
want
say
to go
that
there.
when it mattered, Tyler. You
Yeah,
didn't say
that's
that when
right.
it mattered.
You
That's
never
right.
gave me the chance.
I gave you the full chance. This was the same
No.
chance Matt did. He answered it right. All right, Matt. We're gonna get Bass and Brews. I'm hefty. My co-host Alex, who has not showed up, he was supposed to show up at 7:40. He's not here, so we're gonna talk a little bit of shit about him. He's short, so I'm fat. He's short, but the next questions are about food. Do you eat largemouth bass?
I don't. Yeah. Nope.
I'm disappointed, Matt.
No, man. Job security, man. No, that's not why. Here's why I don't eat them. Have I had them before? Yes,
I'm
I have
sure.
had smallmouth. I've had spotted bass. I've had them all, and honestly, man, I don't eat that many freshwater fish. Like every once in a while, I'll go out and catch a mess of crappie. If I'm up north and I'm at a restaurant, I'll get walleye. Sometimes a good perch plate or something up north. But if it's fish, it's saltwater for me. There's too many better options out there than bass. That's the only reason.
A good fried up spotted bass is good though.
Yeah, they're not bad. I mean, look, if you're gonna have a fish fry, it really does it really matter?
Exactly.
Nah.
That's what I try to tell people. They're like, "Oh my god, bass tastes like mud." I'm like, I could fry up catfish, bass, and crappie in little fillets. And you know what? I guarantee you, 99% of people could not pick out the fish.
I agree. Yeah,
No,
I agree 1,000%.
100%.
And as we get a little older, I try to eat a little healthier, so I'm grilling fish more now. And I honestly like to put a good fillet of whatever, like in a skillet, and just brown it on both sides and eat it straight up like that. And if you're gonna do something like that, I like a little bit better. I hate to say quality fish, but like I like a lot of different saltwater fish when I can get them, obviously.
Yeah, ain't nobody in their right mind trying to blacken some largemouth bass. You'll
exactly
have largemouth bass and old stew.
Yeah,
it ain't gonna be that.
My other roommate, Scott Canterbury, he loves to bake crappies, and I'm like, nah, dude, like don't, nah.
Yeah,
nah. If you're gonna bake a fish, man, like go to the store and get you a snapper or something. Like get something that's like truly good when it's baked in the oven.
What's your favorite saltwater fish that you're eating?
Probably my number one. This is probably going to surprise a lot of people. And I just had it for the first time 2 years ago, and I've had it a few times since. I'm gonna say triggerfish, man. Triggerfish is one of
Dude,
my favorite.
Ooh,
that's my favorite.
I've heard that
Triggerfish is
recently.
amazing, and they're. I mean, you can cook that sucker any way you want to. Don't fry it because that's
No.
not doing it justice. But um, it's just really, really, really good.
Yeah, the very first time I had it was down in Oak Island a couple of years ago. They got a restaurant down there that every day it's fresh, whatever they can get at the market that day is
Yeah,
what's on the menu. And they
yeah.
had triggerfish, and I was like, I've never had that. I'm gonna try it and do
It's
like
really,
Matt said,
really
it is
rare.
really good.
It's really rare to find it at a restaurant too. Um, and then, but I'll tell you, my second favorite fish of all time is halibut. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
you
hard to
just
beat.
can't beat. Yeah, you can't beat a good halibut fillet. My best friend goes to Alaska every year, and he always brings a bunch back. And gosh, man, just throwing that sucker, a little olive oil and butter, salt, and pepper in a skillet, and just as soon as it starts to flake, pull that sucker off. Ain't nothing better.
Mm.
Thrift goes on these saltwater trips every year. Me and Matt's been trying to get him to bring us back some fish, and we hadn't got
Matt,
none.
it's Matt and I, Tyler. Matt
Look,
and I.
Oh my God, yes, yes. My co-host is from Washington State originally, lives in New Jersey, and his grammar is terrible. See, thank you, Matt, for being grammatically correct on
So,
Bass and Brews.
well,
Thank
so
you.
so long story short, dating back to the early days of Let's Talk Fish, that might have been a T-shirt that Jeff made at one time. It says "Me and Matt," and because that's all Thrift would ever say. He'd start into a sentence on the show, and he'd say "Me and Matt," and every single time, I would correct him in the middle of the show. It's Matt and I, Brian. He's
I
like,
do.
"Whatever, it's me and Matt,"
and it still
and I'm like,
does.
I
he
do
still
the
does.
same thing with Alex, and now I will see him. He will have a somebody and I, Paul and I, or whatever situation, and he pauses for a split second. But if he gets excited or he's drank too much liquor, he will say the wrong thing, and I right away I chime in. I was like, "Nope, it's Paul and I."
We're gonna get a money jar. You need to get one for Alex. I'll get one for Thrift. And every time they use improper English on the show, they have to put $1 in the jar or whatever
Well,
it
here's
is.
the problem. Alex lives in New Jersey. I'm here in North Carolina. We have never met. We've been doing this podcast
Oh
for
wow,
almost 4 years now. We've never met. So I'm not,
that's pretty cool. Actually,
yeah,
that's really
we
cool.
wouldn't have, yeah, it
But y'all are
is.
gonna
It
meet
is.
this year, though, right?
Yep, April 11th, he's coming down. We're going to camp at Jordan. We're going to try to do some fishing. It's a good time for Jordan, especially where we're camping. So we're going to see what's going to happen. Yeah,
Might have to
we're going to
tote a
record
boat
a
up there.
live podcast on site on the campground. We're going to see what
Cool.
happens and meet for the first time. But yeah, unlike y'all, my co-host and I have never met. We don't get to hang out and shoot the shit and go fishing together. Of
Well,
course, what
that'll be really really cool experience. Y'all should cook some bass on the show.
I we are, because one of my sayings is that the best bass to eat are 7+ pounders. They make the best fillets. And
I don't know if I would do that on the show, but
look, especially the one with eggs. Have you ever
yeah,
had
yeah,
largemouth bass eggs deep fried?
yeah.
They're delicious.
Just a side of fish eggs with your largemouth. Yeah,
All right,
sounds delicious.
Matt, have you ever eaten beaver?
Beaver, no.
See, you're in North Texas.
I'm not that gullible either. I'm not going to go that direction. I don't know if anybody's ever.
What direction are you talking about?
Yeah, well, you're the same age as me.
Look, I'm from McBee, South Carolina. I don't know if you've ever been through
Matt,
there going.
did you say Maccabee?
Yeah,
McBee?
No, it's McBee, but yes, people call it McBee from where you're
People around
from.
here call it McBee. So the first speeding ticket I ever got.
Yes,
And
yes,
look,
yes.
I'm not.
Going to Myrtle Beach.
Look,
Going to Myrtle
I
Beach.
was running through there. Yeah, that town has made more money off of people going to flipping Myrtle Beach for vacation than any other thing in the entire history of that city. I can promise. And I was going like 37 in a 25, and I'm like, who pulls you over for going 37? I don't care what the speed limit is. And as soon as I got pulled over, I look in my rearview mirror, and this heavy set female cop gets out of the car. And I knew right then I was done. Like yeah, I was done. And the guy I used to work for, he said, you always carry some cult money in your pocket, which is a crisp $100 bill. And I said, I thought about dropping that thing out the window and asking her if she'd pick it up for me. But then I thought twice. I said, my butt's going to end up in jail for trying to bribe a police officer. And she was there for one reason. That was to write as many tickets as she could. And I got a ticket and I was on my way. But I never sped through McBee again.
It's McBee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, McBee. Born and raised in McBee, South Carolina, a high school 7 through 12 with 520 people in it, and somehow I'm one of like 4 people that ended up at Division I college football. So
wow, that's awesome. Hey, that's something to be said about that. Now that's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive.
It's crazy that you said that because I knew you were going to Myrtle Beach because before the new Interstate 74. And you probably came through there too when it was only 2 lanes instead of a 4-lane highway because you were coming down 151.
Yep. I was coming down 151. Yep.
McBee, South Carolina. See, this is great. This is why we have this podcast because we can relate. But back to beaver. I grew up in McBee, South Carolina, and we trap beaver, not like the mountain men on Discovery Channel. But man, beaver's good eating.
Take your word for it.
It is.
How'd you cook it?
Like you would a pig, like you would a Boston butt.
You smoked the whole thing?
Well, I mean, yeah, you smoked the whole thing. I mean,
tail and all?
No, the tail ain't nothing but really like fat and gristle. But no, the rest you cut the tail off, and you've eaten squirrel, possum, coon.
I've had squirrel, never had possum or coon. I've had squirrels and rabbits. I love rabbit, but So tell me more about the beaver meat, like the texture and the color of it.
It is. Have you ever smoked a chuck roast? You know, people call the chuck roast the poor man's brisket.
Yeah,
poor man's.
Yeah. I mean, I've had it. Yeah. I've never smoked one myself, but I've had it. Yeah.
If you took a big brisket and you smoked it and you pulled it like you would pork, that's beaver. But it has that kind of deer taste to it too. It has that little bit of a gamey taste to it.
A little gamey.
Yeah, it's a little gamey. It's not as soft and luscious as a pork butt would be, but man, it's super fat, super flavorful.
Huh.
I mean, you smoked the damn beaver.
You sparked my interest.
Yeah. I mean, the other beaver would have been a good answer too. And we usually have that. People kind of get a little bit confused, but you did great.
Yeah, I'm sure it's happened before. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We had the most famous question or answer to that was we ask it to a guy and he looks at us and he's like, yeah. And Alex said, oh, how'd you prepare it? He went, raw. All right, last question. Yeah, that's right. That's the best way, right? Rare. All right, last question. This is the one that's going to take you to the highest of highs to be a serious angler or the lowest of lows to the dark waters. Every angler loves a good sandwich. What are your top 3 sandwich proteins?
I'm sorry, you cut out right there at the end of it. You said every angler loves a good sandwich. What are my what?
Top 3 sandwich proteins.
Oh, my top 3. Chicken. God. I don't hardly eat sandwiches.
Matt,
I know I'm terrible. I'm terrible
your
at
country.
this.
Dang.
Your country.
I mean,
your top
okay,
3 meats you're putting on a sandwich, Matt.
Yeah, okay. You're not talking about when I'm on the water necessarily, just in general.
At this point, yes. If you're making a sandwich and you got some meat, or you can choose your top 3 meats to put on a sandwich.
Bologna, liver mush, and chicken.
Oh my God, he said liver much.
Yes.
Fucking yes.
I was hoping he said liver mush.
Nieces.
Yeah.
Nieces.
No.
Max, man. Now, look, I don't discriminate that much against liver mush. I like Nieces also, but Max is my number 1 choice. Nieces is a close second.
We don't have Max on this part of the state, but it doesn't matter. I'm the same way with you. Give me some liver mush, fry that thing up nice and crispy. Some
split
mustard.
And dropped. You got to order it split and dropped when you go around here.
What's split and drop?
They slice it thin.
Yes.
They slice it. They slice it thin and then they fry it.
Oh, okay.
So split just means split normally it's a pretty thick piece around here when you order it.
Okay.
I mean, it might be an inch thick, 3/4 of an inch thick, and you always say split and drop just to get that thing a lot thinner so it fries up a little bit crispier,
Crisp
like
up.
you're talking about. Yeah,
And just some yellow mustard.
yeah, like yellow mustard or a little Frank's Red Hot on it, whatever.
There you go. I love it. Hey, look, y'all hang out. This is Bass and Brews podcast. Don't forget to do all the shit that Alex tells you to do in the beginning. I don't know. He's not here. He didn't show up. He was supposed to. Our second guest, Brian Thrift, didn't show up like he was supposed to. But, you know, we had a great time. Tyler, thank you for being on. Thank you for setting us up. I appreciate you, buddy. Matt, thank you for coming on and spending an hour and almost and a half with us. We appreciate it. Thanks for the input.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. I enjoyed it, man. Thanks for having me on. We'll do it again sometime.
All right, Matt, leave us with like a 1-sentence words of wisdom.
Well,
this is going to be interesting.
Oh, man. Learn how to catch them with live sonar.
I love it. I love it. Perfect. All right, y'all hold on. We're going to end this. Hell. End.